This is Liana Lo. She is from Prezi. She's a senior developer at Prezi, and she's going to talk a little bit now about the full process, right? How they go from idea to working out the specs to developing, and then how they iterate over that. And it's a really interesting thing how that whole process happens. So, ladies and gentlemen, please have a round of applause for Liana Lo.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. I'm Liana. I am a full stack engineer at Prezi. Actually, I'm not a senior developer, but thank you. It makes me sound good. And I'm here to talk to you about cross-functional collaboration within the teams at Prezi. A little bit more about myself. Full name Liana Lo. I go by this nickname, Lilo. I was born and raised in San Francisco, California, this giant tech hub. And I went to school at the University of California, Berkeley. My degree is actually in chemical engineering. Now I'm a software engineer. I worked at Intel for a while before last year I packed my bags and I moved to Budapest, Hungary. This happened in October of 2014. And now I'm a full stack engineer at Prezi. Yesterday I got on another plane and I arrived in this beautiful city, Tallinn, Estonia. Thank you to Refresh and TransferWise for having me. I'm really excited to be here and speaking. That's me. Of course, I also need to introduce my team to say how we collaborate. And this is us. We are known as the Prezi for Teams team. Prezi's business model is based on a freemium strategy, so a user can sign up for Prezi with a basic free public license. With this license, they have some limited cloud storage space for the presentations. Also, all their presentations are by default public, and they can't make this content private. So if somebody wants better features than this, they can opt to either pay for a single user pro license, or if they're using Prezi in their business, and maybe they have other coworkers who are using Prezi to pitch sales to clients, we encourage these users to invest in a Prezi for Teams license. And with this license type, all the billing and payments are handled by one admin in a centralized UI. Additionally, we have shared team folders where users can easily share content with their other team members within the Prezi team in a secure, private way. And our team is responsible for all of the Prezi for Teams experiences. Right now, we are 4 developers, 1 tech lead, 1 data analyst, 1 designer, 1 UX researcher, and 1 product owner. Prezi likes to say that we are startups within a startup, and I think my team is pretty representative of that. We are from 5 different countries, and among us, we speak 8 different languages, which I think is super awesome. Diversity is really important for us at Prezi. Since the beginning, we've aimed to be an international company. And being from international backgrounds ourselves, we believe we're better able to empathize with our users from around the world. So we're very conscious for recruiting people from many countries. Right now, Prezi is localized to 10 different languages, and we're always expanding that. When I first wrote this talk, I thought it was 9 languages, but I forgot we had added Italian just last month. Here you can see we're each holding a pillow, and they say welcome in the different languages of our employees. They're in our welcome lobby of the Prezi office. And we have over 20 pillows at the moment, which means in our company of 250 employees, we have representatives from more than 20 countries, and I'm really proud of that. Unfortunately, we don't have anyone from Estonia yet, so if any of you are interested in joining our international team, please talk to me after this presentation. We especially need more designers and UX researchers. And that's us. I get the question all the time for why I would leave San Francisco if San Francisco's like the place to be in the entire world that's best as a software engineer. And this opportunity to immerse myself in an international environment and work with people all over the world is a really big reason. That's my entire team. Since this is a front-end focused conference, I'm going to focus on these 3 roles in particular: our designer, UX researcher, and our engineer. And we're going to go see how we develop a feature from the very beginning to the end, including even deciding what kind of feature we want to work on. First, I'll go through the tools we use in general in our daily work. This is our designer. He helps conceptualize what kind of user interfaces we want to implement. Some typical tools he uses in the beginning: pencil, paper, whiteboarding, Adobe InDesign, and Photoshop. Or actually, we used to use Photoshop. For over a year now, all of our developers have switched over to Sketch, which is an application for Mac OS. And while Photoshop was really good in that it gave every single tool you could imagine for creating an image, Sketch was developed specifically for people who want to design user interfaces. And this is apparent in that everything in Sketch is a vector. Assets are really easy to export in Sketch compared to Photoshop. And also, really important, everything that you can create in Sketch is possible to implement in code, in CSS. So we wouldn't get files that were created in Photoshop with different gradients and shadows and other effects that were actually impossible to implement on the web. Super awesome use for your front-end developers. Along with Sketch, we pair it with Zeppelin. And Zeppelin is a pretty new tool. At Prezi, we've used it since its beta testing phase. In February 2014, this year, we started its beta test. And only 2 months ago, in July, they released their 1.0 version. Zeppelin is a tool that you can import a file from Sketch or Photoshop, and it will automatically annotate things like pixel distances between your elements, all the different font sizes and font styles, all the different color codes. So we save our designers the trouble of having to annotate these things manually, or otherwise having to meet face-to-face with your developers every time you hand over a design to discuss all these details with them. I'm going to go more into Zeppelin later and show you some screenshots. I'm a really big fan of this tool. Next is our UX researcher. So this is our user. When they interact with our product, a lot of feelings can arise: positive, negative, happy, sad, frustrated. Our UX researcher wants to pinpoint where in our product negative feelings arise so that they can improve these features for the user. And typically we do this through live user interviews. Well, where do we find users to interview? We can either source them through our database at Prezi, so current users. Otherwise, we can stalk them on LinkedIn. And we try to find users who fit into the target profile of our user. So people who use Prezi or PowerPoint or any other kind of presentation tool to pitch sales ideas or other things to clients. And we want to interview users not only who have used Prezi before, but maybe they've heard of it, they tried it once and they hated it, or yeah. And we value all the opinions from these users because current users, they can have already existing ideas for what parts of the products of our product they want to see improved. Users who have never used Prezi before, we'll ask them to sign up for Prezi, see their first encounter with Prezi, the Prezi editor. Is it intuitive for them how to create a Prezi and use our tools? And we take all of these into account in planning future development projects. These user interviews, we want them to last 30 to 45 minutes. Well, let's say a UX researcher contacts someone on LinkedIn. Why would they want to participate in our interview? We offer them this incentive in the form of an Amazon.com gift card. They usually take place remotely, so we have a screencast and audio. Occasionally, we will travel to meet a user face-to-face and interview them. And while remote interviews do give us a lot of insight already, we can see how a user clicks through a flow. Being there in person gives us more details, like where exactly a user is looking on a screen, other types of body languages that we would otherwise totally miss in a remote interview. Additionally, when we go to meet some of our really big, important clients, it helps build a relationship with them. And it shows that Prezi, we are listening to their feedback. Their feedback actually matters in our future plans. Whether remote or in person, we record these user interviews, and we share them within the entire company, not just within the UX and the design department. At Prezi, we want every single employee engineer, designer, UX researcher, even like customer success. We want them to know our users, so we always keep in mind who we're building our product for. And this empathy definitely gives us more incentive to put a lot of effort into the development of our product. Next, people like me, an engineer. All of us are full-stack engineers in my team. As for our front-end stack, we use HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, Less as our CSS preprocessor, and Backbone as our JS framework. As for Less, about a year ago, we introduced this universal style guide within Prezi. Previously, all of our designers weren't always in consensus for what a page should look like. And since we introduced this style guide, we have the same buttons, checkboxes, forms on all of our web pages. And this results in a more consistent, unified web page. So a user will feel a more consistent experience in it, and it won't seem like a bunch of pages put together by different people. It also speeds up our development process, since we can just pick and choose an entire button to put in the page, and we don't need to code it from scratch every time. So this is the bulk of our front-end development team. Now let's look at a case study. This year, we totally revamped our admin UI. This was the original, and this is what it is right now. You can see the original. It's cluttered, it's kind of crowded, and we didn't just look at it ourselves and decided that it wasn't good. We did a bunch of user tests. We always got tickets from our support specialists who got these questions from admins, where if we had given them a proper UI, they would have been able to find solutions for themselves. This is actually a screenshot from one of our support specialists who had an admin saying, I don't know when my members' licenses expire. So that information was completely missing from this page. So, sorry. So after an accumulation of a lot of these complaints, our product owner decided this is the thing we definitely need to fix. And this is what it looks like right now. Here we have a clean interface for just licenses and members. We have a separate tab for payment information. We not only allow the user to view their invoice, but we can see the past payments, credit card, billing info, and a separate tab as a gateway to reach our support staff. And before the message box where you can ask for support help from a real person, we prompt the user to maybe look up some questions in our FAQ in case they can find their answer there before having to wait for a response from us. So how did we do this? First step was to explore and even realize, do we have a problem with this page? Is it worthwhile to work on it? I mentioned before that we have our user interviews, and we saw that this page was causing pain to our admins. So once we decided that this was the project we wanted to work on, our designer got to work to proposing, conceptualizing what the new admin UI would look like. So from humble beginnings on this corkboard, you can see this is the design we finally implemented. After that, we create a more robust version in Envision app. And Envision allows us to create an interactive prototype. So along with this new UI, you can actually click on buttons, and it will seem as if the UI is responding to your actions. And with this, our UX researcher will again make more user tests and see if there are additional problems with this UI, what we're doing right and wrong. And we'll iterate on this process until we get a version that we're satisfied about, and we want to implement it for real in the production code base. Then we can move on to the development step. Our designer will then start touching Sketch and Zeppelin. Here is a screenshot from Sketch of an onboarding page we have for new admins. So an admin who has just come from our sign-up flow will see this. They'll get a welcome message and some tooltips for how they can start managing their Prezi team. After the sketch file is finished, our designer will upload it to Zeppelin. And here's a screenshot of Zeppelin and a bunch of UIs that we have saved in it so far. I can click on one, like the welcome page, and it'll take me here, where to our left we see all the different color codes that exist on this page. There's another tab for all the assets that are on this page. Previously, we were only getting screenshots and individual assets uploaded to Google Drive, and that's how we were working. Obviously, this is way better. It was not uncommon for a designer to forget to upload individual assets into Google Drive, so we would need to go back to the designer. We would need to go back to the designer, ask them for these assets. It would stop our workflow, and of course, these interrupts slow us down. And with Zeppelin, it's impossible to forget any assets that the developer needs, since it's all automatically added here. And perhaps my favorite thing about Zeppelin is that it automatically annotates these pixels. When we only had the screenshot to work off, it was a lot of guesswork and feeling like how far away is this element from the other. During our design checks, it would be a pain because maybe the developer has a better eye for these things, designer has a better eye for these things. And so design checks took longer. Our developer would need to sit down with the designer and fix these problems. Using Zeppelin has eliminated the errors that we make in these details. I definitely recommend you check it out if this is similar to your workflow. After we have the basic UI finished, we will then work on responsive design, making sure the user has a quality experience from desktop to a mobile phone. We also make sure we localize all of our content properly. Here's a fun fact. More than 40% of Prezi's revenue comes from non-English speaking countries. So it's really important for us to make sure these customers can read what we publish on a web page. And even if a user is from a country where English is a commonly spoken second language, there are going to be people who are more comfortable reading things in their own native language. For really big releases, we also hold a bug bash. Bug bash is typically a half-day event where every single developer on our team will go through a flow that we've just implemented and try to break it. And after we find all the places that it breaks, we push out fixes. After all of this, we've written tests, we've passed the tests, we've done design check with our designer UX researcher. It's finally time for us to release. Woo! And then we're finished, except we're not. Because development is always an iterative process for us. In terms of if we've planned an A/B test, we have our data analyst figure out what kind of information we need from the test in order to make a decision in the future for which version beats the other. For example, we also had a project this year in revamping a sign-up flow, and we had 3 different versions out. Our data analyst he wanted us to put logs on every single page of the sign-up flow and see where users churned, whether it was the first page, second page, or even in the final page before they even clicked that confirm button to finally buy a license. And from that, hopefully we can see that there's a clear winner among the versions that we can release to 100% of users. Unfortunately, in real life, of course, there's not always a clear winner. And in cases like this, we can run the experiment for a longer period of time to see if there's a difference in the long-term metrics of it. Or we can push out more different versions and continue the experiment that way and hopefully get more insight to what the user prefers. We like to use Chart.io to plot our data and share it within the company. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you real data from Prezi, but here's an example screenshot from Chart.io showing company KPIs or key performance indicators. A graph that we like to use at Prezi is something like this conversion rate on the bottom right of new users who are coming in over time. For example, let's go back to our explore step. An experiment we tried this year was trying to get users to use this feature of Prezi for Teams more. Like I mentioned before, if you have a team license, there's the option of having shared folders within your team. And there were teams that weren't using this at all. And maybe it's just because they didn't notice it. So we implemented this popover for users who had never clicked this button before. And what were the results? We found that we had an 18% increase in shared content from this, which means more value generated for our team's users since they can see more of their teammates' content. Another experiment was user-driven team growth, which resulted in a project that I'm working on right now. More about our Prezi for Teams license. Say there's this company, Series, and they have a Prezi for Teams license. Maybe there's a worker at Series who signs up with Prezi with their company email. They don't have any idea that Prezi exists, so they sign up with a free user account, and that's the end of it. We wanted to inform the user that they have the option of joining a Prezi team. So how did we do this? How did we show them that a Prezi team exists in their company? We would show them this folder when they first log in. And when they click on it, they were brought to this UI. Your company uses Prezi. Would you like to join the team? And this experiment was a Wizard of Oz experiment in that we, as developers, only implemented this part. And when a user clicked this, maybe they thought automatically they were sending an email to their team admin, but there was still a human in the loop doing this manually. Like we were collecting the email addresses and sending it to customer support. As this was an experiment, we wanted to push it out quickly to see if it was actually worthwhile implementing a fully automated process for this. What were the results for this? We saw that 9% of possible team users requested to join, and 60% of those, if accepted to the team, would cause a team expansion, meaning the admin would need to buy another license and give us more money. And these numbers were very positive. After just like 1.5 weeks of testing, our product owner knew this is something that's really worthwhile. It's going to give our company more revenue. And it resulted in the project I'm doing now, which is automating the flow. And that's all I've got. I'd love to hear your questions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A lovely talk. I guess one question that I have straight up from this is, you spoke about the way that the team person could be added to the company team, and then you were showing with some numbers that actually contributed to actual revenue. Is an actual revenue number something that is being monitored by your team, not just how much people are using it or something like that, but then taking it all the way down the line to dollars in the bank?
For this experiment, since it was so short, we actually didn't wait very long to see if the admins would accept the team member. So we didn't see if actual revenue was generated, but in terms of longer experiments, we definitely analyzed that. And it kind of proves to the company that our team is actually doing useful work.
Okay, so if you're going up the levels basically in the company, then money talks very loudly at the end of the day. Okay, as I expect it would, yes. One question here, how do you position Prezi against other presentation tools? I mean, just as a general thing, how do you feel that Prezi stacks up against other things in the market?
Like personally, or how do I think the market feels about it? Because personally, I think Prezi is pretty cool.
All right, well tell us, why is Prezi better than the other things in the market?
I like that these transitions are nice. And so with slides, it's like a very linear thing. You go from the start to the finish. With Prezi, we have things that appear on this canvas. Our transitions can go from like left to right. And for me, it's a better way to visualize it. If I was doing this in slides, I think it would be less effective. Sure.
What we're trying to say is everyone else today sucked, and this one was excellent. No, that's what I just heard. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke. Okay, cool. All right, let's take some. Okay, let's go to the audience. Here's Jordan over there.
Hello?
Hello.
How do you organize bug bash? Do you time box it, or you have some other metric how to do it?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I didn't really hear it.
How do you organize the bug bash event?
Oh, bug bash. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we time box it to half a day, so that's 4 to 5 hours. And all of the developers are just going at it for that entire time. And we're writing down a list of all the points that we see are breaking into an Excel spreadsheet. And maybe in the last 2 hours, we're going to prioritize which bugs we need to fix before this release.
Are you are you all geographically together, like in a room or something when
Yes,
you do
we
this?
are.
Oh, is it all intense and lots of Coke and like Red Bull and stuff, and you're all getting
Yeah,
nachos? And,
it's fun.
Okay. All right. So there's sometimes you're away, you just sort of. And are you using when you are bug bashing in that group? Are you using any automated tools to do that as well, like something that's going to come in and try and hit it from different angles, or is it just you guys just
It's
all
just
pounding
us.
it? Okay. Very good. All right. Next question. Everyone's looking around like, no, there wasn't no there? Okay, that's nothing more like that. I think that's all right. I think we had to move on anyway a little bit. So if there's no more questions from the audience, then thank you very much. It was a very entertaining talk. Please
Thank
have
you.
a round of applause for Liana here.